Hello, I'm Mark.
I'm Casey.
And I'm Patrick.
And today we're going to talk about New York City and Revel and what's been going on. But first, we're going to roll that title.
Waste not, want not.
You're watching the Tesla Life Express!
Hey everyone, welcome to the Tesla Life Express. And Casey, we're going to start with you. We're going to go a little bit different with that waste not, want not thing you said just before we rolled the title. What are you talking about, Casey? What's going on?
I'd call this poaching, but it's not exactly poaching because Tesla let these people go. And so Revel said, hey, if you're not using those engineers, we can use them. And they extended offers to a great many of them. So what we're talking about here is still the aftermath of the turmoil in the supercharger team. We later found out that it was not as the news said, and it wasn't as brief as Elon said, because we know he's not a great public speaker. But there were still a number of people who didn't get re-extended offers, and they know some stuff about the industry, and they have some experience. So why not capitalize on that if you also are running somewhat of a charging network in addition to your other activities as a taxi company?
Makes sense. Makes sense because this group of people that were laid off by Tesla, some of them were in Revel's backyard. Yes. Revel, of course, is a ride-sharing service that's based in the greater New York City area and has a number of Model Ys, now in the hundreds, I believe, that are roaming the streets of the metropolitan area doing rideshare. In fact, this rideshare group is so committed to rideshare, they've actually removed the front passenger seat to give people in the back more legroom. And of course, a monitor to face them so they can see the ride in more detail right from the back seat. It's an inventive way of doing rideshare, and they've been pushing this format for some time, and have noticed that there's a distinct lack of chargers in the New York City area for fast DC top-ups. And that has been something that they've been trying to mitigate by buying their own equipment, by buying or renting or leasing land to place them on and signing deals so that they can have it for a number of years. But
like when you look at the supercharger network, it is the most extensive worldwide and in North America. But there are what I call charging deserts. That's why my trip with the getting the vehicle ready for the HV Nomads was as long as it was, because I was traveling in between places that Tesla didn't deem important enough to install more than the bare minimum of chargers. So I had to sit there and charge to 80 and 90%. And even worse than that, there were no other alternative options. Even if I wanted to pay to be able to have less time spent charging. They're just I have the CCS adapter, so that's not a problem. I've got the Chatamo, but that's not fast. So Revel is doing a good job here with this. And when you think about where the superchargers were built, Giga Buffalo, right? So there are going to be extra people in their backyard in addition to just what you'd find over the rest of the country.
Exactly. One of the people laid off by Tesla and not rehired was a manager for the Northeast United States, which is exactly where Revel sits. So it's something that's a perfect match for them to hire this person and put them into a role where they can excel for that company. It's not a surprise that there are a number of people that are available, and Revel, I would say that the charging desert thing in New York City is probably not quite accurate, but Revel's a different animal here. What they're doing is they stay within a certain radius of New York City, right? So they're not traveling out of New York City, going to New Jersey, heading to Pennsylvania. But what they're doing is they're driving around in circles within that radius. And then there's less chargers because, of course, you're not going anywhere. You're really staying within 75 miles of New York City proper or less. And it's something that if you had it your way, of course, you want your fleet to be able to stop and get a quick charge so they can be back on the road earning money very quickly. So you want that ability to set up different strategic chargers in maybe South New Jersey, or across the bridge in Staten Island, or in Queens, New York. You want to have these specific areas, and that's what Revel's trying to do. And if they could bring on Tesla employees that have experience in the Northeast already with permits, with the ability to what the equipment can handle, with the how the cars react to the charge, they can get a head up on competition and be able to say, you know what, we've got the whole package here. We've used Model Ys now for a number of years. We know how they react, and now we've got employees on that can help us build a charging network is equal to the one that's the best in the country, currently Tesla. So
now that you can buy V4 superchargers
is something that everyone would look at. Sorry, Casey, what was that?
And now that you can buy V4 supercharger dispensers, that's even more experience that they have right there, because they'll be able to get that. Like, BP and Shell will have Tesla helping, but they're doing it themselves. Mm-hmm. Who else would be better to tweak it to the perfect settings than the people who are installing them already?
Yeah, absolutely. And Tesla, of course, has now opened up that door. So Revel could be one of these groups that buy a third-party group that buys Tesla equipment as well.
Yeah.
Now, that hasn't been said in any of these articles yet, but
no.
that is the logical conclusion, I would say, is you're bringing on the employees. You have the cars. They can tell you the reliability. They can tell you the maintenance schedules. All that is now with the employee as they start working with Revel.
Yeah.
Yeah, this makes a lot of sense to me. If you want to have a successful rideshare, you're going to have to be able to charge. You're going to have to be able to do it without waiting in line behind everybody else. We had a story we covered last winter where in Chicago, there were a lot of rideshare cars that got abandoned at supercharger stations because of the cold, and then there were long lines, and then if you're a rideshare driver, you're not making money if you're standing in line waiting to charge. And so they were like, screw this, I'm leaving, and then just abandon the vehicle. So having Revel make their own spots where they can charge and they control access to it, that makes a whole lot more sense. Even if they did open it to the public, I don't think they are, but you can see from this picture that Mark's sharing, it looks like these are dedicated to their own stuff. They're branded. It looks like it's on property that they own or manage.
Yeah, it's so like the AWS style. They are open to the public, but I bet you if a Revel car comes up, it's jumping the line.
Yeah, that would make sense to give them priority. So I think it's really smart of them to hire these people that have the right expertise, especially if it's in this region already. They already live there. I'm sure that if you had been let go from Tesla, you lived in this area, this job comes open, and now you can stay local instead of traveling a lot farther away. That sounds like a great deal for a win-win for both. And if they're going to start buying Tesla superchargers and deploying those, who better? This is perfect.
Yeah, I never even thought of the Tesla hardware angle, but that is a nice dovetail to make this system fully complete. The employees, the hardware, the cars. Basically, you've become a regional Tesla, a small Tesla on your own with those all those pieces put together.
Everything except make the car.
Exactly. So yeah, that's kind of interesting that they have done this. And again, you remember a couple weeks ago when this first story, when it did break, that Tesla was going to be laying off people. Revel was one of the first early ones also that got in touch with Tesla and said, hey, if you're dropping some supercharger sites in the New York metropolitan area, come to us first. We would love to take them over. So they knew the value of the permitting process, how long it takes, and what equipment is required, and what prep has to be done to a site in order to get one open. So I don't think any site was handed over to them. As far as the news media has been concerned, nothing was said about that. But Revel was great by getting on the phone early to say to Tesla, don't lose anything in New York City. We will just take them over. Obviously, no deal was made, but it was interesting that they immediately were on the phone saying, think of us. We'll take it over. We'll help you out. If there's something we can do, if we can work together, we're more than happy to do so.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're saying, Mark. The desert is also depending on what paradigm you're looking at it from. As far as interstate travel, New York is just like any other place. It's covered. It's fine. But if you're looking at it from a local perspective, it is definitely a desert. You don't have what you need to keep your folks without making crazy trips or waiting forever.
And of course, you've got the other problem is that you've got these crazy tolls that are in between the bridges and tunnels of New York, New Jersey, Staten Island, Long Island, all these, you don't want to be going across a bridge or a tunnel and paying a $25 fee just to fill up and then head back with a $25 fee just to get back in your own area again. That's why you've got to be strategic about where these places are to charge.
And some of the superchargers are paid parking garage. So now you got to pay, it's a minimum 15, 30 minutes. And all of a sudden, now you got to pay that on top of the tolls. It's like,
yeah. And certainly, Casey, that makes sense because, of course, even ICE vehicles have a bit of a fueling desert in New York City as well because the land's so expensive. Nobody is buying it to put, a 48 pump location like Buc-ee's sitting in New York City. It's just not going to happen because the costs are too high to lease the land.
Yeah. Plus, you got to then. You got the environmental regs to keep up with. It's a lot easier to do that with electrical cables, and and then you look at the amount of people there who just don't drive. You wouldn't get all your money back that you need from something like a Buc-ee's. That's not to say that some other downtowns don't have it. Like I've seen some in like I don't know if it's Chicago or California because it all blends together. There was one where it looked like the facade of the street, but you pulled in and it was actually just the full-on court with the awning and everything. For a regular gas station, but when you look at it from the street, it looks like just another skyscraper.
Yeah.
Huh. Funky. A little Wile E. Coyote math going on there. And I'm sure if you have a Tesla in New York, you're less in New York City. You're less likely to have a garage and be able to charge in your garage overnight. So you're probably more dependent on public infrastructure. So now, if someone's
upstate city.
Yeah, if someone's deploying hundreds of rideshare vehicles and you had to compete with them, it's so much better if they have their own space for everybody.
Yeah. Well, we'll watch this story as time goes along, and Revel has been in the news quite a bit, so we'll have to see how this works out for them and what their next move is. But I'm sure there will be a next move. With that said, Casey, what do you got shout-outs for us?
So come back and see us on Wednesday for the Tesla Life live show. Same place, same time.
Exactly. Thank you, Patrick. Any notes from you?
Yeah, so this is coming out on Monday. You're watching this live. It's Monday, and so that means that yesterday I just published a blog about my Solstice production. So you can find that at carswithcords.net. And as always, I'm with the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association. You can find us at oeva.org. Thank you.
Fantastic. With that, we want to thank Lee Moon for the music we use every week, and we'll get together next time shortly to find out what's happening in the Tesla life.